Your body doesn't know the difference between what is really happening and what you are thinking about, envisioning, or spending mental energy on. So like, again, cancer healing, if I picture a healthy, great, vibrant body, my body responds to my thoughts. If I picture fear and dying, my body, is connected to those thoughts. And there is a really great book, The Biology of Belief, that talks about it. So I drew myself 3 circles, green, yellow, red. And I asked myself, what basketball am I dribbling in my mind? And I'm just trying to go swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Green basketballs, I have full control. I can control getting groceries. I can control the meals that I want to make and put in my body. I can control carving out time for exercise. I get to control which clients I want to say yes to, which podcasts I accept. I can say no to the ones I don't want to. I can control the words that come out of my mouth and how I want to communicate with other people.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of the Eternal Optimist podcast. This is the show where we interview successful people from all walks of life all over the world and ask them questions about the things they've had to endure and overcome. Our message is one of hope. It's one of you can do it too. And we have maybe a heart-touching, maybe a tearjerker. I'm not sure where we're going to go today. I know that I felt some emotion when I was doing my research on Jen. And let me give you the full introduction. My guest today is Jennifer Broxterman. And she is going to, let's just start with Jen. Jen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, well, it's a real pleasure, sincerely, because I watched, and for those of you out there, I may go out of order a little bit here. I went to her website, prospernutritioncoaching.com, and I saw her 18-minute video on a main stage where she shared her heart-touching transformation story about how everything changed in one conversation. Maybe we'll get into some of that today. But we have a rock star, literally a rock star with us today. So let's start off with something easy.
Okay.
Who is Jen Broxterman?
Oh, great question. There's a lot of facets, but the easiest way to describe is I'm a registered dietitian. I've been a nutrition coach now for 15 years. I have just loved sharing my passion for healthy eating with others. So I used to work at a university and be a foods and nutrition professor, got to win some teaching awards there, but ultimately, my heart just called me more into the private practice space. So, I've worked with anything from at my, the height of when I was really into sports nutrition, I did a lot with NHL hockey players and Olympic athletes. And then my heart kind of pulled me more into just the regular folks, right? Just moms and dads who are looking to eat well and be good role models for their children, live a long, healthy life. So I spend most of my time in just helping people have a non-disordered relationship with food, but in a way that they can eat to just have energy and not feel like they're chronically dieting. And so I do a lot of that. And then I started a second accidental business that came out of the pandemic, and also a hard thing I think we'll pivot and talk about in a second. And I started a certification program called Prosper Nutrition for coaches and anyone interested in nutrition and wellness, so they can get into this space and not gatekeep it just for registered dietitians, but helping anyone who wants to coach healthy habits be able to use this either for themselves and their own families, or to go take it into, personal trainers and gyms and just anyone in the wellness space.
Yeah. When did you develop this love of nutrition? And because you said you're a registered dietitian, food nutrition expert, you've taught it in college. Like, when was the origin of this passion in this space?
There was a very specific moment. So in high school, I always kind of say that I'm a kind nerd, and kind nerds unite. If you're a kind nerd, like, you're my kind of people. And so I was always the student that had her nose in a book, loved reading about science. And I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare field. I just didn't know, do I want to be a doctor? Do I want to be a physio? Do I want to be this? And then everything changed on Thanksgiving Sunday. So I'm Canadian. Our Thanksgiving falls on a Sunday.
Okay.
My dad had a heart attack playing hockey on the ice. He had a blockage in his heart called the widowmaker. So he got rushed to the hospital. We got the phone call, you need to get in the car right away and come say goodbye to your dad. He's not going to make it. Now, he did pull through. He was in the hospital for a number of weeks, had a couple of operations. And then I don't know why the 16-year-old nerd in me was like, what can I learn about nutrition to to help my dad be okay. So I started like chopping up veggies and making like this veggie bucket that was front and center in our fridge. I started to do things like helping to pack a healthier lunch for him to bring to his workday. I tried to help my mom with like cooking and grocery shopping because she was really stressed with myself and two younger siblings. And I just felt like if I could step up and instead of getting really scared, and I think I was scared initially, I was like, where do I have agency? I can create support in my family and just help make the food environment that little bit healthier. And then I went on this mission to learn as much as I could about healthy eating to help other people hopefully not be in that position. And that was the moment my love for nutrition really, it was out of sadness and fear, but ultimately turned into this like beautiful thing I get to share with the world now.
Wow. Well, thank you for kicking us off with who you are. And I'd love to dive into if you could pinpoint one or maybe a couple of key points in your life, what were the most difficult, hardest times that you had to endure and overcome? You just shared one about your dad, and that was challenging in high school. But take us forward. What were the next like critical, most difficult times in your life so far, Jen?
Well, I will never forget October 29th, 2018, and my phone rang from a blocked number. And in my heart, in my gut, I just knew I was getting really bad news. And to set this up, I had been getting sicker and sicker for a number of years, and it didn't make sense why. Like I was a dietitian, I was eating really healthy, I was a super elite athlete. I mean, I was a varsity rower, varsity hockey player, and then I was competing in CrossFit, trying to make the games, but basically in the top 20 in Canada. So I was a fit, healthy, adult, but I kept getting really sick to my stomach. And, I start looking into, do I have a food sensitivity? Do I maybe have Crohn's disease? What's going on? I felt like the biggest hypochondriac, and just no one believed me that something was off. So I had been talking to my doctor and getting a number of tests done over the years. And it started at 29. But now I'm fast forwarding, I'm age 34. This is 1 week after my birthday. And I had a colonoscopy done recently. And, I just was like, I think I need further investigation. So this phone call rings and I'm like, I've got really bad results from this colonoscopy. And I didn't just think it was going to be Crohn's disease. There was this niggling intuition that maybe I had cancer. And so the phone rings and the doctor calls and he's like, hi, is this Jennifer? And I was like, yes, it is. He's like, I've got some news for you. Your biopsy came back from the colonoscopy that we did. It is positive for cancer. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you have any questions for me? Okay, the hospital will be in touch soon. Click. That was how I was told I have cancer. And it was miscommunicated at the time that it was colon cancer, and it actually wasn't. It turned out to be stage 3 ovarian cancer, where I had ovarian cancer cells that had formed a full tumor in my large intestine. And so at that point, I basically 3 weeks later got opened up in surgery, and cancer was everywhere. So I had 2 strains of ovarian cancer, not one. I lost my ovaries, my uterus, my cervix, my appendix, my ileocecal valve, 2 parts of my large intestine, and a third of my bladder got cut out. So now I pee like a pregnant person. But essentially, when I was 29, things started going off in my menstrual cycle. And great message for women to know your body. And they basically just put me on hormonal birth control, being like, hey, this will mask your symptoms. You'll feel better. Okay. And I kept being like, but let's get to the root cause. Like, I'm a really healthy individual. Why is that not working properly? And, testing, they weren't really sure. No one really, looked that deeply. They're like, oh no, on birth control, you're not getting, your blood work's back in normal. You're not getting the hot flashes you were getting. So like, you're fine. And then for 5 years, it crept along. And the worst part was, and maybe this is TMI, but if this helps a listener, if this saves a life, I'm happy to talk about this. Women have to go get pap tests. Not the most fun procedure, but very important preventative stuff. I dutifully did all the pap tests I was supposed to, but one of them came back abnormal. So normally then you go back for 3 more tests in the year. I dutifully did all of that. No one read the report. So when I tracked down this year of testing, after I got the diagnosis of cancer, there was cancer 5 years earlier. No one read the report. So it said abnormal for cervical cancer. Abnormal cells are detected. Further testing is needed immediately for uterine or ovarian cancer. And my doctor didn't read that. And the OBGYN didn't read that. And I am extremely proud how I handled it.
Yeah. I'm curious how you handled that because I'm feeling a little bit upset hearing this. Like maybe anger is the emotion I'm feeling a little bit right
It's like
now.
I could have had all these body parts still in me and not been so much sicker. At that time, what I did is I got crystal clear on energy and using my actions really wisely because I was like, I have limited time, limited energy, and I need to fight the scariest thing of my life. So I was like, first and foremost, ducks in a row. I got to go get surgery to get this cancer taken out. I got to explore treatment options. And then a few months after surgery, a few months after, all of this kicked off, I went back to each doctor involved in my care that didn't read that report. I was extremely calm. I had already thought about it and put forgiveness in my heart. And I said, me yelling at you or getting extremely upset isn't going to solve the place I'm in today. I can only react from the place I'm in today. So I said, all that I ask is you re-review that report, you re-review my notes at the time and my symptoms. And all that I ask is that you pay a little bit closer attention, especially to a young, healthy woman that doesn't look sick or look the part. And I hope if forever going forward, you remember me when you've got a young female that says something's wrong and you look a little deeper. And I said, that's all that I ask because I'm not litigious. Suing you isn't going to change anything. And I hope this can be the deepest, best learning opportunity that maybe this saves another person's life. And I said, that's all that I ask is that, you can learn from this and grow from this. I'm like, no medical professional is perfect. People are busy. People make mistakes. And I said, I hope if I were to have ever made a mistake, someone would come at me with compassion and love, forgiveness and grace. And I know as a healthcare professional, I would feel so bad and apologetic and then be like, how can I do better going forward? Because you can only fix the present and going forward. And so let this past mistake help your practice going forward. And I was like, and I can leave it because I was like, I didn't know if I had a lot of time to live or not.
Yes.
And in fact, the most aggressive cancer that I had, it was a lot like a pancreatic cancer. The life expectancy is about 6 months to a year with the diagnosis I was given.
Okay. So can you tell me what, when you say that you had already, you placed forgiveness in your heart,
Mm-hmm.
love to dive into that deep because that emotion or that mindset is so countertypical of what you would expect from people. They'd want to lash out and even be litigious maybe just because whatever. But you consciously chose to have forgiveness. How did you do that?
Let me show. Actually, I'm going to grab something just to the side. I want to show you something really special that helped.
Please, because I'm so amazed and impressed that you can keep your focus and your energy moving forward towards what can heal you, as opposed to things that can, I don't know. It doesn't feel like that energy is gonna be a good thing. So please.
The strangest thing that I was able to connect the dots was I, as a dietitian, was doing a lot in helping my clients heal their own relationship with food, heal their, eating disorders and things like that. And you have to do so much mindset work. So when I work with clients, you see I have a mountain behind me. As I sort of say, we climb the mountain together. And the mountain is the base of mindset, positive environment, supportive habit. You need to have some knowledge and some strategy, and you need to have a tad of willpower. You have to be disciplined, but all of the cultural stuff is you have to be disciplined. These are the food rules. And that doesn't work for most people. I just go mindset, environment, healthy habits, knowledge and strategy, and then, staying on track with a bit of willpower. And so there was a mindset exercise I did with a lot of my clients that were struggling, especially my eating disorder client. And it's the coffee cup or the teacup metaphor. So I'm going to tell you this thing I did for myself. I'm going to quickly go through my words and show you the teacup. And it goes something like this. If life comes along and bumps you, and I have, a mug right here filled with my morning tea, and tea goes spilling everywhere. Well, why did tea come out? Well, it's because someone bumped me, of course. That's why everything came flying out of my cup. No, what came out of my cup is whatever I chose to put in my cup. If I had put water in my cup, water would have come out. If I chose coffee, coffee would have come out. We get to control the contents of our cup. You cannot help that you will get bumped and jostled and shaken by life. And so the real test isn't how do you show up when life is good and life is easy. The real test is what comes out of you when you get bumped by life. And so I sat down and I drew a blank cup the night before my surgery. And I said, I have a cancer diagnosis. It is really bad. I've been given an 8% chance of surviving. How do I want to face cancer and what's going to come out of me? And these were the words I picked. I wanted love to come out of me. I wanted to be still a happy, positive person that I am. I wanted to have a lot of courage. I wanted to have resilience. I wanted to show that I was a strong person. Like I said, I wanted to remain positive. I wanted to be fearless, even though it was really scary. I wanted to just show up with courage. And I wanted to be an inspiration for how you can face cancer and how you can choose to live your life, no matter what kind of comes your way. And so when I thought about, uncovering the sad piece of the missed cancer diagnosis that actually took 6 years, too late to kind of get into the weeds of why I was so sick, I was like, well, yes, if I communicate to the doctors with love and positivity, and I can be an inspiration, and they don't feel attacked. And even just logically, like, do attacked people respond well? No, they get defensive. That's how human nature is. So I was like, my ultimate goal is to make sure that they can improve their practice and someone else's life is maybe saved earlier. So attacking them doesn't actually help my goal of helping the next person down the line who might be in the same situation. But if I can come at them with love and patience and courage to have a difficult conversation, and all that I ask is that you take someone that looks healthy a little bit more seriously. I hope I've passed something good on, and I don't need to know who that's going to help one day. But I was like, to me, that feels like most in integrity of how I can have this conversation with these medical professionals that did let me down.
I love the way you just outlined all of that for us, especially took note. And listener, if you have a chance to take a note, I love this as a journal question around the context of the story. What comes out of me when I'm bumped? What comes out of me when I'm jostled? I love the question. And we do get to control the contents of our cup. I was having a conversation on the show a couple of weeks ago with a guy named Hal Elrod, the Miracle Morning Guy. And I'm listening to your stories. They're very aligned. Cancer just kind of came out of nowhere, unexpected. And a lot of energy work and mindset work has led to recovery, because it appears at the young age of, I'm doing some math, maybe right around 40, that you are healthy. So how are you feeling? How are you doing now with all of this?
I am in radical remission. Within 4 months, my cancer was completely gone.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it's so astonishing to look back and think about it. So I wake up from surgery. I have 32 staples from my rib cage down to my pelvis. I had 2 parts of my large intestine taken out and sewn back together. All of these internal organs removed. I actually woke up partly paralyzed. So my right leg got crushed in the surgery, my femoral nerve, and my right leg didn't work. So I now have a walker where I had a limp leg like a spaghetti noodle that just kind of like dragged along behind me. So I had to completely teach myself to walk again. And I just did a lot of mindset work, a lot of meditation.
Yeah. What does that look like? A lot of mindset work and meditation, because that just to add more, not insult to injury, just to add more stuff on top of the plate. My leg is not working. So what was your mindset meditation work like in that period?
I started with 2 books, and then I took action on the books that I read. And these are my 2 book recommendations if you have a scary diagnosis of cancer or just a hard time in life. The first one specific to cancer is called Radical Remission. The author is Dr. Kelly Turner, and she did a research study where she basically went around the world and interviewed people that were given terminally ill diagnoses for cancer. Like, this is bad, you're not going to make it, we're sending you home, you're palliative. And she found as many cases as she could where the cancer completely reversed back into remission. And I use this phrase a lot with my nutrition clients. Success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So if you want to accomplish something difficult, if you want to be successful, go find people who have done that, because there's going to be clues along the way. And so what Kelly did in her book is she summarized the success leaves clues path. And she's like, what was in common to all these people that experienced radical remission? No shock. Wholesome, real foods, certain spices, lots of cruciferous, dark green leafy vegetables, mushrooms, beans, adequate protein. Sunlight is really important. Nature, a huge component to healing. Like, even trees make this cool chemical substance. They put out these terpenes in the air. So if you've ever walked into like a fresh pine forest and you're like, that smell right after it rains, like, there are healing components to being in those spaces, but your cells respond to your thoughts. And I'm not going to get too woo-woo on this podcast, but you really can look at your mental headspace. Even if we look at the science of stress, right? Our parasympathetic, our rest, digest, recovery, healing nervous system versus the sympathetic, which is our stress, right? Our fight, flight, freeze nervous system. I was like, if I want to give my cells the best possible chance,
Yes.
I need to keep going back to parasympathetic. So I did a lot of yoga that, my yoga teacher had like crystal, the crystal bowls, the sound bath yogas. I did like just gentle music. I sat outside in nature. I went on this hiking trail as my legs started to recover, and I would go hiking with my dog, and I would sit with a journal, and I would just reflect. And so what I did is I made myself a list, and the list is everything I thought it would take to heal from cancer. Would you like me to read that list on the screen?
No interest whatsoever in the list. No, of course. Yes, of course. I'm taking notes radically over here. This is excellent. Please keep going.
One day I sat down by this river and I wrote down this list called Healing from Cancer. And then I printed it out and I put it beside my bed and I looked at it every single day and I tried to infuse as many things from this list. And to me now, this is just a life well lived. So it starts with 3 daily words: happiness, joy, and love. Living plants everywhere at home and work, go hiking in the woods, lean into exercise. And like at that time, we had a CrossFit gym and getting lots of community support, do gentle yoga, go on quiet retreats like yoga and spiritual retreats just to connect and reflect on my values, get outside for daily outdoor walks, eat lots of vegetables, especially those cruciferous vegetables that are obviously connected to cancer healing, follow a low to no sugar intake nutrition plan.
I got to ask, how do you stick to that with everything out there? It's processed and just sugar and everything. How do you stick to that?
You have to grocery shop, you have to like cooking, and you have to have a little bit of a food plan, which is what I help my nutrition clients with.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Cook with lots of fresh herbs and spices. Actually, this kind of lends to your question. I wrote down eat whole foods, but without being crazy, right? Just, as natural and as real foods as I can. But I didn't want to go into a place of disordered eating and adding more stress trying to be too perfect. I wrote down find the sun, seek out warmth, and go on some sunny vacations. Work part-time and keep making a positive impact in the world. Relax, stress less, and start to live at a slower pace. Have lots of dinner parties with my friends. Drink lots of tea, as I am. Take probiotics and take care of my gut microbiome. Have a daily gratitude practice, meditation, inward reflection, and a spiritual practice. Have a strong belief that I'll be okay. Nurture and protect my immune system. Get in lots of dog cuddles with my dog Carly. Ask for social support from friends, a family, and work with a therapist. Cry and let all the tough emotions out. Get daily hugs. Invite in more laughter and play. Look at beautiful art and beautiful natural spaces. Do sound therapy and just have more peaceful sounds and music around me. I did some like aromatherapy. Get lots of natural light, really lean into sleep, allow myself to sleep enough, no alarm clocks, wake up when you feel fully rested, release suppressed emotions, and practice deep forgiveness. Have less fear in my life and this sense of safety, live in a clean, uncluttered, minimalistic home, have travel and adventure, limit and shield against negativity, and that includes negative people and extremely negative news. Sundays are electronics free and it's just family and friends time. And finally, be at peace with dying. Don't be afraid.
Wow. I wrote down most of those, and that is an expansive list. So thank you for sharing with us. I wonder about one of the ones you had at the end and how that might relate to your physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health. You talked about how you limit or shield yourself from negative people and or the news. And I'm particularly interested in this because I've made an intentional effort to not watch news. We don't have cable anymore. I haven't watched the news in years. However, in this last election cycle, we're recording this and I'm in the United States, but in this last election cycle in the US, here we are in March 2025, there was a lot of what I would say negative news. And it kind of drew me back in October, November. And I found that my stress level on my Aura ring was different. I found that I was feeling divided. I was feeling a little bit negative. So that kind of crept back in for me. How do you do that? How do you limit that exposure interaction with negative people, with news? What's that look like for you?
It's tough, but again, I always, there's an activity I teach my clients and I call it the 3 circles of control. So picture a green circle, a yellow circle, and a red circle. And sometimes I call this the basketball game because my brain thinks in a lot of funny metaphors. So the other book really quickly about cancer connected to this is called The Biology of Belief. Your body doesn't know the difference between what is really happening and what you are thinking about, envisioning, or spending mental energy on. So like, again, cancer healing, if I picture a healthy, great, vibrant body, my body responds to my thoughts. If I picture fear and dying, my body, is connected to those thoughts. And there was a really great book, The Biology of Belief, that talks about it. So I drew myself 3 circles, green, yellow, red. And I asked myself, what basketball am I dribbling in my mind? And I'm just trying to go swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Green basketballs, I have full control. I can control getting groceries. I can control the meals that I want to make and put in my body. I can control carving out time for exercise. I get to control which clients I want to say yes to, which podcasts I accept. I can say no to the ones I don't want to. I can control the words that come out of my mouth and how I want to communicate with other people. I cannot control how someone chooses to communicate to me. I cannot control the actions of a president in a country I don't live in. I don't have a vote to go vote for or against anything. So if I focus on green, it's the things that I have total agency, total control. And I try to put most of my energy into that. And of course, there are causes I care about. So if I put my energy into the green, how do I make my little community better? Right? And this is such a dumb, silly example. I'm up in Canada. We've had a massively snowy winter. I use the dog park frequently, but our dog park door was like full of 3 feet of snow and you couldn't open and close it and then the dogs could run out. So I went with my shovel one day for an hour and I just chipped out all the snow that I could because I was like, this will make the dog park safer for all the dogs. They can't escape. There's coyotes that kind of live in the forest near this dog park. So I was like, this is a thing I can do, to go make my community better. It's not a big thing. No one saw me do it. I am actually embarrassed I'm even talking about it on a podcast because I don't want people to go and know that I did that. But I was like, okay, that's what I can do in my little corner of the universe to make it a little bit better. Yellow circles are things that you can influence, but you don't have full control over. So I can rally if I want. I can write a letter to people or for causes. I can try to organize, aid efforts. If I know when the Ukraine war broke out, I was very upset and stressed about that. I have Ukrainian family members that still live there. So I, worked with my gym and we did a little fundraiser and raised a few $1,000s. And I was like, okay, I can't stop the war in Ukraine. It's not like I can get on the front lines and, talk Putin out of this. But what can I influence? And I was like, okay, that's an influence action. And then the things that are red are the things that you have zero control over. And you just have to set them down. It doesn't mean you're ignorant. It doesn't mean you don't care. If you do care, you go back to what is green and what is yellow for things that are red that upset you. And so I just have to recognize that if I'm stressing myself out, I have to look down and be like, what ball am I dribbling right now? Right, I'm trying to shoot the red basketball and I'm never going to sink a point. So if I switch out the red ball and I pick up a green ball, I can get a point. I can get a point. I can get a point. And so I think by leading from within of how do I be the best version of myself? How do I treat other people really well? How do I, do a good job in my role as a dietitian? Then the yellow circle, how do I influence others to be the best versions of them and take some burden off their lives and make their lives a little bit better? And then if you feel like you're dribbling red, you just have to go back to how do I make red feel more yellow or green? What piece of that can I move forward and really impact? So news is tough because it's hard to just sort of be you don't want to be ignorant to what's going on in the world and not uncaring. It's just more you're putting your effort into things that you can move forward.
Well, thank you, because I drew my red, yellow, and green circles over here and made notes. That was fantastic. I love the way you did that. So this has been fantastic so far, Jen.
Thank you.
I saw on your website that you have a community of kind nerds. You mentioned that
earlier.
My jam. So I love that. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about your community and about your business now?
Yeah. So, my first business is nutritionrx, where I have a team of dietitians and myself, and we just work with people from all over to eat healthier and follow all those good food principles that I talked about. But the real community I've been building is the one that kind of came out of cancer, and that is Prosper Nutrition Certification. So what's so interesting is one of the treatments I did some Reiki with an energy healer, and my throat started to vibrate. And essentially this thought kept protruding into my brain, which was, you're playing too small. You need to get on a bigger stage. And I just got on camera and I started to film these mindset coaching exercises, the way I coach nutrition for my clients. And I started to make this like huge video library that eventually became a full certification called Prosper Nutrition. And so it started on accident in the pandemic where gyms were struggling. And I originally just built this as a training program to have coaches who came on my team level up their skills and just be, like I said, some of the games and way I explain things, people are like, wow, that's really helpful the way you teach that. So I was like, I should probably record this, especially if I'm going to possibly die from cancer, so that I can just give this to the world and it lives on. A coach contacted me and they're like, can I go through your training? Not that I need to work for your business. I have my own thing, but would you allow me to get trained by you so I can coach like you do? And I was like, yeah, like no problem. And then they told another coach and they're like, I heard you have this amazing training program. Can I go through it? Can I keep your resources? Can I get the teacup exercise? Can I get some of the games? And I was like, yeah, like, come on. 500 plus coaches later, I was like, oh, this is a thing. And so I re-recorded all my little video library, formalized it into a nutrition certification. I call it my community of kind nerds. Anyone who wants to coach others to have a happy, healthy relationship with food and believes that it's not just meal plans and macros, but it's working on our mindset, building really supportive environments and communities, and then breaking it down into everyday habits that we can sustainably do. And so, yeah, I just love inviting coaches into that. I've got a YouTube channel, Prosper Nutrition, where I try to put lots of free videos out there for the public. And then if it's okay to share a little gift with your audience.
Please, any listeners offer. Yeah, love to hear that.
I call it Be a Kid in the Candy Store. So I have a page on my website called prospernutritioncoaching.com/freebies. And I just give away. So I've got a little checklist, a 6-step checklist guide. If you want to get into nutrition coaching of like, here are the key pieces to put into place to get your business off the ground. I have a completely free nutrition coaching masterclass that lets you basically have some of the games and metaphors I coach with. And I give you some of the resources from the certification for free. And I always believe like, let people have a little free trial or a sample of it. It gets rave reviews. People are like, how do you not charge for this? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to share it with the world. So here you go. And there's probably like 6 or 7 other awesome, gifts. And there's marketing things out there for coaches that maybe are trying to get more clients. And I just want any fitness, nutrition, or wellness coach to have things available to them to just be more successful and help more people in their little green basketball sphere. So if you go to prospernutritioncoaching.com/freebies, be a kid in the candy store. You can like ransack it all if you want and just take it and start to use it.
Fantastic. So prospernutritioncoaching.com is the main website, and we can get all the kids /freebies to get the candy, aka the videos and anything that can help them. And so coaches, anyone's interested in that space can go there and get certified with you. Can we follow you on any other social media platforms? Is there other places?
Yeah. So Instagram, I'm prosper_NC. I maybe am a little bit old school. If you email me, I directly email you back. So I still have coaches from all over the world. It's maybe almost getting unsustainable, but I want to be there and help others. And I feel like I was put on this earth to lift others up and just make our relationship with food so much healthier as a society. So message me. I'm info@prospernc.com. You'll get me and you'll hear right back from me. So if you've got a question, if there's an issue you're stuck on in your business, if you're, questions about healthy eating, send me a message. I'm here to help.
Jen, this has been fantastic. I'm curious, is there any other story or question that you'd like to share or you'd like to answer that I have not asked you yet today?
Ooh, I think, maybe I'll put this question back to the audience. And I love this teacup exercise to my core, because I think if anyone listened and stayed tuned for this whole, 30 something minutes, I would ask you that we all are going to have hard seasons in life. There's always going to be difficult things going on in the world. So when life shakes you, what do you want to come out of you? And I think sometimes that's almost, I don't set goals anymore of like, I'm going to achieve this, or I want to earn that, or, the XYZ has to happen. I now think more from cancer, how do I want to show up in this day? And I think if you can keep showing up with integrity and your core values at the forefront, you'll accomplish anything hard you set your mind to. And it just takes the pressure off the timeline. So my question, I guess, goes back to the audience and the listeners. When a difficult thing happens and life shakes you, what do you want to come spilling out of your cup?
Thank you. I feel that our listeners have been enriched by this. This is fantastic. I've got some great journal questions from this. This is awesome.
Thanks, Matt.
And you've already answered one of the questions I like to ask our guests. I like to ask what would be one or two books that you'd recommend that have had an impact in your life. And you've already shared two of them, The Radical Remission and The Biology of
Belief.
Biology of Belief. Anything else? Any other book, podcast, just any source of inspiration for you?
I mean, this one is so cliche and overused, but to me, it's still something I go back to all the time as a coach, is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I really think we are the sum of the habits we choose to do day in and day out. And so doing a little bit of a habit audit of, what healthy habits are serving me? How do I lean more into vegetables and protein and movement and water and sleep habits and even just mindset and self-talk? And like a garden, bad habits creep in. So I call it weeding the garden. And so I try to read that book once a year, reflect on the bad habits that are like weeds that have kind of crept into my garden of health. And you're not a bad person if you have bad habits. I think that's human nature, but it's a nice, gentle reminder of like, what habits do I need to go weed out? So for me, that's one I return to probably yearly. And it's a great book if you're in the coaching space as well.
Fantastic. So thank you for that. How about music? You mentioned more gentle music, not probably AC/DC Thunderstruck, I'd imagine. So what is the gentle music that kind of gives you joy and lights you on fire and gives you, fills you?
You know what, I'm going to like 10 years ago, maybe like, what is coming out of her mouth? But one of my favorite things to search for on YouTube is like where they have the crystal bowls and the sound baths. There was something I learned going through cancer about like the frequency of sound waves of helping your own cells of your body get in vibrational alignment. And I find that if I've done yoga classes with the crystal bowls and sound baths, or just on YouTube, they're available for free. I will sometimes, put it on in the corner of my room, turn the laptop screen completely black. I sleep so deeply. I wake up feeling so well rested. And it's just like, I don't know, it's not like music, but it's incredibly restorative. So that's one of my little things I sort of stumbled upon going through cancer recovery.
Thank you. I've never heard of that before. So I'm going to go to Spotify, type in crystal bowls and sound baths, then go to YouTube, and thank you. Okay. Well, Jen, we're down to the final question, and I'll give you the final word today. You were on the Eternal Optimist podcast. What might Eternal Optimist mean to you?
I think, it's always believing in yourself that you can get through hard things. And, I obviously have had to been tested on that belief. But one of the things I always remind myself is like, I can do hard things. And it doesn't mean it's always fun, but just that the eternal optimist is like, the hard times will pass and you already have the strength in you to be able to face it. So take it a day at a time, get support, lean into other people. And I think if you can know what's in your cup and you can be really connected to your most important words, it's already in you to handle the hard stuff.